Good evening and welcome to the Pitt County Board of Commissioners meeting November 15th, 2021. And we want to say welcome to all who are present and welcome to all of those who are watching YouTube or Facebook or however you may be watching and listening. Again, good evening. At this time, I will call the Pitt County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll have Madam Clerk.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Commissioner Albright.
Here.
Commissioner Colson.
Here.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Present.
Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Perkins-Williams.
Here.
Everyone is present.
Thank you. At this time, we will have invocation by Commissioner Mayor Perkins-Williams and the pledge by Commissioner Mike Fitzpatrick.
Please stand. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the residents and the people here and the employees. We thank you for all your goodness and your mercy. We pray that you will continue to bless us. In your Son, Jesus' name, amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I will have approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to offer a motion that we move item number 3 on the items for report below number 4, approval of the agenda.
Okay. It's been moved in second that we move item number 3, which is recognition of 2021 Governor's Volunteer Service Award recipients of Pitt County. Move it up under the approval of the agenda. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins-Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now have approval of the agenda with that change.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I offer the motion that we accept the agenda as written and adjusted.
I second it.
It's been moved in second that we approve the adjusted agenda. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Mayor Perkins-Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. At this time, we will have the recognition of 2021 Governor's Volunteer Service Award recipients for Pitt County. These volunteers are, and also a Medallion Award volunteer service will be presented also. Mr. Manager?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, we're going to ask Alice King to come forward, and I believe she'd like us to step down in front as you present the certificates, and she'll be reading from her material at the podium.
Exactly. While you're coming down, I want to say good evening to our chair, Mr. Manager, and members of the board. This is an exciting time for us to come before you each year. And actually, we were hoping to present these awards in April, but we wanted to wait until we could bring our outstanding volunteers here in person and let you see them and be inspired by the work they do for the citizens across our county and eastern North Carolina. every week of the year. I want to say a special thank you to our 2021 Volunteer Service Awards Committee. That is Jennifer Congleton. If they'll kind of raise their hand, she's Administrator with Chaplaincy and Volunteer Services at VIDA. Dwayne Cooper, Executive Director of United Way of Pitt County, and Jennifer Lanier Coward, Associate Director for Pitt County Community Schools and Recreation. They work with us each year in selecting the outstanding volunteers. We get, like I said, to work with the governor's office, and this is a great opportunity for every county within the state of North Carolina. We're honored to have a special guest with us tonight to also cheer on our volunteers and recognize them, and that's Representative Brian Farkas, and we appreciate him being here with us tonight. We're honored to have our chairwoman and our county manager to actually present these awards. I would ask our recipients, as your name is called, to please come forward, and I'm going to tell our board and our audience a little bit about each volunteer's service. Haney Hadaje. If Haney will come forward, volunteers with the Lutheran Services of the Carolinas, where he serves people in Pitt County and across the state of North Carolina. He prepares personal hygiene kits for current and future disasters, loads and delivers donated furniture, and rebuild materials to disaster survivors. One can often find Haney delivering food, emergency, and daily necessity supplies to the most vulnerable populations. While helping others, Haney has a special talent for smiling and laughing, helping those he serves to experience a moment of joy and hope while reminding them they are not alone. Haney, we appreciate your service.
So we'll read it for the audience. So it says, Governor's Award for Volunteer Service is awarded to Haney Hidazi. Is hereby awarded the highest designation of appreciation for distinguished volunteer service to the people and the state of North Carolina, and it is to be granted and extended all honors and courtesies provided by this office, entitled thereunto by this certificate of recognition and appreciation, signed by Governor Roy Cooper, dated April 1st, 2021. And there's a pen to go along with this as well that Chairwoman's has for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
I think we got some pictures to be taken. Okay. Thank you.
Our next recipient for 2021 is Andy McLaughlin. During the spring of 2020, with the COVID-19 pandemic having closed schools and many businesses, Andy assisted the Friends of the District Park, the Leroy James Farmers Market, and the Making Pitt Fit Community Garden volunteers in providing fresh produce bags for seniors receiving Meals on Wheels from our Council on Aging Senior Center. Andy has been a longtime volunteer in Pitt County and is always ready to donate fresh fruits and vegetables, especially to those who rarely get these nutritious, fresh, and healthy items. Thank you so much, Andy.
Congratulations.
There's your pen too. It's the same certificate language, so we just read the first one. And
Thank you all very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, got some picture. Didn't get a picture.
Oh,
Mr. McLaughlin.
picture.
We have to capture this, Andy.
Thought I had made it out of here.
You want to see your certificate?
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Our next organization is the Association of Mexicans in North Carolina, a Mexican. If they will come forward, I think we have Provencio and a team. Mexican was nominated for this award in recognition of their incredibly unique dedication to working with the community and community partners. During 2020, COVID-19 truly defined their work, with many projects and programs developed to help those devastated by the pandemic. They have provided financial assistance and implemented food drives to feed hundreds of families throughout eastern North Carolina. They work tirelessly to advocate for the Hispanic community to ensure that their needs are met. Thank you so much. Our next recipient for 2021 is Beast Philanthropy. Beast Philanthropy was established by Jimmy Donaldson, AKA Mr. Beast, the world's most successful YouTuber, along with his volunteer partners, Darren Margolius and Ms. Sue Perisher. It is a nonprofit where 100% of all monies go to help stamp out food insecurities and homelessness. These individuals have quietly been setting up warehouse networks to distribute food and other needed items to assist families and communities in need. They purchase, receive, and deliver necessary supplies to serve thousands of families throughout Pitt County and other states. Their efforts are also supporting homeless individuals with housing needs and everyday supplies. Their focus is serving marginalized populations, and they are also very proud to support our military veterans. They are celebrating their first anniversary, and receiving the award tonight on their behalf is Ms. Sue Perisher and Darren Margolius. Thank you so very much.
Congratulations. Thank you, Congratulations. Okay, you gonna take a picture? Yeah. Picture?
Squeeze in.
And then y'all need closing up. Don't get very close.
One, two, three.
The shot.
One, two, three. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you again to the team.
Thank you.
Our business recipient for 2021 is Thermo Fisher Scientific. Thermo Fisher Scientific was nominated for this award in recognition of their support for the Pitt County Schools STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and math, as well as their support for other community nonprofits. They provided grants throughout 2020 to support 37 schools in Pitt County. Thermo Fisher employees also volunteer their time to support various STEM-related activities. Additionally, they provided household items that were distributed by social workers, homemade and commercial mask and sanitizer, backpacks, ties for Tie Thursday to promote leadership and respect. The Greenville site is the #1 site for volunteer hours with the entire Thermo Fisher network of manufacturing sites. That is very, very impressive. During 2020, Thermo Fisher employees volunteered over 3,600 hours supporting critically needed services within community nonprofits. Receiving the award tonight is Tommy Shornack, the Vice President and General Manager for our Greenville site, and Sandy Torres with the Community Action Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next recipient is Ilham Thurston. Ilham works about 60 hours a week as the North Carolina-South Carolina Disaster Assistant Director. However, spends any extra time she has volunteering for Pitt County. She was selected to be on the NC Governor's Volunteer Emergency Operations Center elite team. Whenever disasters strike, the governor activates her to the center where she helps to coordinate emergency response for the affected area. Ilham serves on the Volunteer Diversity Chair, serves as the Volunteer Diversity Chair for the North Carolina Volunteer Organizations active in disasters, with the sole desire to increase diversity, equality, and inclusion for all. Ilham, thank you so much for what you do for our community. Thank you again. Our next two recipients work at Vida Medical Center, and the first is Joan Christensen. Joan is a faithful volunteer in the surgery admissions lobby at Vida Medical Center. She greets families and guests while their loved ones are in surgery. She always receives many accolades from the ASU staff. Joan even did extra shifts in extreme weather, outside conditions for the COVID-19 drive-in clinics. She would intake information for those waiting to be tested or assist the lab team members with errands around the site. In her service at Vida, Joan has accrued over 800 hours of service for our hospital. Joan, thank you so much.
Thank you for your Okay, thank you.
And our next volunteer from Vida Medical Center is Christopher Cisterno. Christopher is a phenomenal volunteer in the patient escort and cancer center areas 3 days a week. He's always willing to go the extra mile in his service for a team member, patient, or other volunteer. He brings a sense of humor, dedication, and great team spirit when serving at Vida Medical. Chris is a 25-year brain cancer survivor and doesn't mind giving back to those who are in need. His life is a testimony to others and inspires them to keep going. In just 2 years, he has contributed over 1,000 hours of volunteer service. Awesome, Christopher. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, again. Thank you.
The Governor's Office also allows the committee to select one paid volunteer director for an award. The award this year goes to Avencio Peralta Rocha. Avencio is recognized here as a paid director of volunteers who exceeds expectations of good volunteer management skills, including recruitment, training, coordination, risk management, evaluation, retention, and recognition. His leadership and objectives are to assist and improve the lives of the often marginalized Hispanic and Latino communities in Pitt County and all of North Carolina. Under his leadership, he and his teammates assist with education and employment opportunities, housing resources, access to health care, and equal opportunity needs. His team of volunteers and staff are committed to the advancement of our Hispanic and Latino neighbors. Thank you, Avencio, for your leadership here and across our state.
Thank you. Thank you. Mhm. Yes.
Our chair mentioned the governor's volunteer. The Governor's Medallion Award is given to the top 20 to 25 volunteers across the state of North Carolina. We get to submit one nomination for that. This year, Billy and Elaine Tarleton with the Grifton Mission Ministries received that award, and that was actually done through a virtual award ceremony back in May. But we wanted to give you the opportunity to know what they've done in this community, the fact that they did receive one of those prestigious awards, and they wanted to be here tonight. We're planning to, but guess what? An emergency came up, and you know where they are. They're at Grifton Mission Ministries down at Grifton trying to solve that issue. However, tonight a person who works closely with them is going to come forward, but that is Paul Dunn on their behalf, because he is here. He is one of the nominators along with Jennifer Smith, and we want to get that picture to recognize the Governor's Medallion Award for 2021.
Paul, picture.
Elaine's a lot prettier than I am.
Thank
all
you.
right, Paul,
Again,
you
we
look good to me.
thank each person who took the time to make a nomination. We have thousands of incredible volunteers that give to our community each and every day, and we're grateful for them. We thank our commissioners for allowing us to come and have you actually present these awards. Thank you.
And on behalf of the commissioners, we want to thank all of the volunteers for their service and making Pitt County what it is. Thank you for their volunteers, for your volunteers.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're now back to public hearing, and first item under the public hearing is redistricting. So we'll have Attorney Janice Gallagher and James Rose. I see James Rose at the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Prior to tonight's third public hearing for the revised voter district boundaries, staff will go back, present some background information just to bring everyone up to speed as to where we are in this process and some of the action that's been taken to date. So with that, Madam Chair, we're just going to outline a few things that we'll be going through tonight. Certainly our working assumptions, that's what this board has agreed upon. We've gotten additional input from the board at various times and different groups of board members. So tonight we have 4 plans. The first one was actually adopted back on October the 18th. That's recognized as map 927. And then we've had 3 versions to come out of your last meeting, which was November the 1st. So those are aptly named map 11-1C, and that input we received last time minimized the precinct splits. We've done that best we can. Then 11-1D, another concern was keeping the town of Winterville best we could intact in one voter district. And then finally, we pretty much have a hybrid between C and D, where we've tried to minimize the splits and also consolidate the town of Winterville into one district. But what that does is put another one of those working assumptions kind of in the background, and that one being keeping your existing district boundaries intact. We didn't really look at that and through the mapping exercise as much as we did these other 2 factors. So we'll go through all those changes for those respective maps, look at your statistics and highlights, and just to start off, all 4 of these maps meet the criteria, the federal and state criteria that we have to meet. Those statutory requirements, those federal requirements that are on the books that we have to make sure we abide by each time. We'll hit a few of those as we go along. The project schedule is down to a day or 2. We started a long time ago. We only have a couple of days before this has, by statute, has to be adopted. So, our first and biggest federal requirement is the Equal Protection Clause, and remember that as soon as we got the census data in, we looked at that to determine if we even needed to go through a redistricting process. Not surprisingly, we do. Certain areas of the county has grown faster than others, and all of this is based on census tracts. We talk a lot about precincts. Those precincts also are built off of those census blocks, just to give you a quick geography lesson. Okay, here we are, our current districts, and what we recognized early on is that we are beyond that 5% deviation, plus or minus. Not surprisingly, that north of the river district, District 2, is below. Also, District 3, a bit below. And then there's District 4, that well exceeds 13% above. So all said, those three districts altogether required us to move forward with this redistricting process. So again, besides that item, that federal requirement, there's also state requirements as far as contiguous boundaries. And then another requirement from the federal government, not diluting minority voting strength. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the individual ones. Some of your, I'll say secondary working assumptions, keep the incumbents within their respective districts. All these 4 plans allow that to happen. Development of compact districts, that's somewhat subjective. We believe each one of these plans also would meet that criterion. And then the final one, use best as possible the existing voter districts and precinct boundaries. Already talked a little bit about that. Voter districts are weighted a little bit more heavily in some scenarios, whereas the precinct boundaries, keeping those intact, are weighted a little bit more heavily in others. So back to your adopted plan that stands today. This is Plan 927. Just some highlights, deviations well within that plus or minus 5%. We do retain your majority-minority districts, that being Districts 1 and 2. The compact districts, we believe so, all incumbents within their respective districts. That one also, if you recall, we did have significant board input on that as far as especially some of those areas that we knew certain districts had to grow, so we were trying to ensure folks that were concerned about certain areas retain certain portions of the county within their districts. All that was included in the 927 plan and was adopted on October the 18th. So just a few highlights. These are all the background statistics that go along with it. There's your 2 majority-minority districts, Districts 1 and 2, both over 50%. And then we'll go on to Redistricting Plan 11-1C. Deviation looks really good, positive 1.3, negative 2. Retain the majority-minority districts, compact districts also, retain the incumbents. The emphasis was not on not splitting the precincts, whereas before, your original plan, your 927 plan split 19, this one splits only 9. But that comes with some fairly significant changes in certain areas. So those are your precinct lines now shown in blue. And this area in red, these are all areas, and I won't go through every single one where which areas shifted out of which districts, but all those red areas were changed from your 927 plan to this 11-1C plan. And again, highlighting, those are your deviation numbers, your majority-minority districts are retained, and then we'll move on into 11-1D. Primarily trying to keep Winterville intact here. That was the main push. Deviation looks good between 2.3 and 2.4. Majority-minority districts retained, compact districts retained all the incumbents. Also, as we looked at consolidating the town of Winterville in one district, We also tried to limit the number of splits. So we actually reduced the number of split precincts from 19 to 14 in this scenario. And we just simply show the town of Winterville. I wanted to let you know the town of Winterville's town limits are not contiguous. So that can pose some problems as we try to get this within one voter district. But we did it for this particular scenario, but it comes at a cost again. Significant areas were shifted over between your 927 plan that was adopted and what this alignment ends up being. And most of those, not surprisingly, are right around the town limits of Winterville. Okay, these are just rehashing the statistics for 11.1D, and again, retaining your majority-minority districts. Okay, finally, with additional input, remember we've had meetings with some of the commissioners during the past week to show both 11.1C and 11.1D. Well, I guess in a perfect world, what we kept hearing is we'd like to see those somewhat mended together. So we would both like to limit the precinct splits and also make sure that we keep, as best as possible, Winterville in one district. So here's our attempt at that. This is 11.1E. Your deviations still look real good, 1.7 and negative 2.7. Both your majority-minority districts are intact. Compact districts also retained all the incumbents. The emphasis here on Winterville, we got all but 7% of the town's residents in one district, that being District 5. And we actually were able, in all this moving of lines, to get our lowest number of splits in precincts at 6. So, to look at some of these changes. It took a significant amount of changes to get to this point. When we're using precincts, just as an example, some of the precincts go across the river. District 2 historically has included all of north of the river. Since we did not split district or precincts this time, one of the districts, District 3, actually goes across into north of the river. There are also significant shifts with District 4, which would then take in all of the town of Ayden. District 6 shifts around, takes in the town of Grimesland and the village of Simpson and those surrounding areas in those precincts. Then there's some other areas in and around the remainder of the districts that were also altered. This is your final configurations. Still, we stand by, these are fairly compact districts. And just as importantly, there's your deviations. We've retained that majority-minority district in both 1 and 2. And so finally, Madam Chair, the timeline. Public hearing tonight. We do have a special call meeting tomorrow if needed. Wednesday, November 17th, is by statute, and Janice can probably elaborate on this a bit more, that is our statutory deadline for getting this information out, and especially to the Board of Elections for those filing periods. And our recommendation, maybe it's my recommendation, approve a resolution tonight. So we'll have a bit more time to prepare things to get it out to those agencies that need to get this, and authorize you, Chairwoman Floyd Huggins, to sign that. And with that, we're ready for a public hearing.
Okay, we'll open up the public hearing at this time. Anybody signed up?
Yes, ma'am, we have 3 people signed up. We will ask our first speaker to come up, and the county attorney will read our statement on public hearings. If not, I can read it.
Yes, if you've got it, and I'll
Okay.
keep time.
Pitt County welcomes all comments on matters of public concern. Each person will be allowed up to 5 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address prior to speaking. All comments should be informative and constructive. Inappropriate comments, including profanity or personal attacks, will not be tolerated. So if Mr. Weaver will come up, and we'll let him proceed.
I'll keep your time at 5 minutes per speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, County Commissioners. My name is Gary Weaver. I live in the southeast part of the county. And I'm just want to thank Mr. Rhodes and his team for putting together all this. I know it went back and forth. I'm here to ask that you support the first map that you voted on and pass it. I think it's fair. It's been in a long-standing order. It was looked at, it was voted. I don't know what caused or what happened to make y'all come back in and redraw it or look at it again like that. But I think the first one is fair. That's the one I'm asking that you support. I'll say this, and I'm not talking about anybody. If you work for the people that are in your district, your people in the district will work for you and get you elected. And you don't have to gerrymander or do anything like that to get people in certain districts. I looked at the last map up there, and I'll say this much. I do not know how a representative that lives in Fountain could represent somebody that lives in Ayden. We should represent the whole county, but the way that map goes and is drawn out, I don't think they could. They represent where you live at. You need to represent the whole county. That's why I'm asking that you use the map that y'all passed. It's already been passed. In my understanding, it passed unanimously. That means every one of y'all voted for it. So you didn't see anything wrong with it at the time you voted for it. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Holden Spain.
Good afternoon. My name is Holden Spain. I live at 1904 Covington Way off Arlington. I've been involved in local politics for just about 12 years now, so I understand fully well how difficult a redistricting process can be. I also understand that it is incredibly important that the public have as much input as possible. So I was here on 9/27 when this commission adopted unanimously the first map. I went back to several people I knew in my precinct, explained what changes were happening with the map, and they all fully accepted it and moved on. At the next meeting, I learned that this commission had decided to reopen the redistricting process and make further changes to the map. Now tonight, after the last 2 weeks of reviewing the maps that have been posted on the website, I see that an entirely new map that had not been posted to the website, to my knowledge, as of this afternoon, is now being considered by this commission. We have little to no input from the public. All I will say is this process needs to be as transparent as possible so that the public can fully understand what they're voting for come November. The first map approved on 9/27 was passed unanimously and has public support. These other two maps, 11C and 11D, at the very least people have had a chance to look at. This 11E map that has just been shown, I haven't seen it until I just walked in. I don't believe anybody else in the public has got a chance to see it as well. So I ask that this commission continue to support the 9/27 map that has been adopted unanimously by this commission and has public support. Thank you.
Okay, next Brenda Smith.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Brenda Letchworth Smith, and I live at 744 NC 43 North Macclesfield. But don't get alarmed. I live in Pitt County, and I pay Pitt County taxes. My address and where I live in rural North Pitt County is just like those maps. They're so confusing, but I will get to the point. So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, all of you commissioners. I will be direct and brief and to the point. My moral compass, and I'm sure yours is too, is to serve all the citizens in your district. What do people want, commissioners? People want fair and equal representation. That's all I want. That's all everybody wants, equal and fair representation. So it's simple. Think about saving the people and not your job. If you save the people, then the people will save your jobs. No matter how you draw those maps, they will like, respect, and know that you've done a great job, and they will vote. Now, when you get ready to vote, and I'm not sure how you do that, but let me just kind of say this. If you vote via pen, hand raising, or paper ballot, don't vote to benefit yourself. Use your moral compass. Let me repeat that, folks. Use your moral compass. That's all I have to say, and thank you so much for your time.
Okay, that's all we have signed up, unless there's somebody else in the audience who want to come forward.
Okay. Okay, if there's nobody else signed up, we will close the hearing at this time. And, okay. And at this time,
Madam Chair, I want to thank our planning staff, Eli and Mr. Rhodes, for working diligently on taking the feedback from our directive at the last meeting of November, and then putting out these 3 maps, and then doing a really good job of consolidating the feedback into what appears to be a pretty good compromise between finding a balance of precinct, minimizing the precinct splits, and keeping everything compact, and keeping Winterville together. And I'll say this: through this process, my mind has shifted a little bit on the importance of precincts, and the importance of, at a local level, being able to not split them up as much for the benefit of the voter. A lot of times we are the closest contact our constituents have with an elected official, and minimizing these precinct splits, while it is going to involve a relatively large change to our map, I think if you get down into the brass tacks of it, at the end of the day, it's just going to enable us as representatives to better serve our constituents, and our constituents to not be confused about where they're going to vote. So at the end of the day, I think this is a really good compromise. Didn't know if we'd be able to do it, but I support this draft 11-1E, and with that, I'll make a motion that we adopt this version and the resolution.
Madam Chair, I hate to speak out of turn, but since I'm virtual, you will not see me raise my hand, so I just want you to know, I do not second Commissioner Nunley's motion, but I do have a question for James, and then after my question to James, I have a few comments I would like to say.
I need to get our second first, Commissioner White, before you speak.
The motion again?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Madam Chair, this
Yes.
is Melvin McLaughlin. I'd like to second Commissioner Nunley's motion. And while seconding it, Madam Chair, I also like to give up my strong appreciation to James Roll, Eli, and his staff. You know, they took time to go back and look at the concerns of the citizens and group that was concerned about fairness and equability. And I have to applaud them for that. They weren't selfish in doing this, but they looked for the best of the community. So with that, that's the reason I second it. I think it was very fair and equitable. Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you for the second. Now, Commissioner White.
Yes, I have one question for Mr. Rhodes, and then I will have a couple of comments after his response to my question. Mr. Rhodes, one of the things I've heard is about having the least number of precincts possible, making that a more simpler process. Is it true that the state or the Board of Elections will come in or can come in and change the precincts up as they see fit with the redistricting of the map?
Commissioner White, that is a possibility. Certainly, those are more administrative units of geography, so our local Board of Elections can ask the state board to change precinct lines, and that's happened just like with the town of Winterville, where we now have a Winterville East and West precinct, and that was primarily driven by the amount of growth in that area. So yes, those precinct lines can change.
Okay, so that is a possibility. The comments that, I wanted to make is, we all unanimously agreed, we had a month-long process of this discussion, 2 public hearings, and, we all unanimously agreed to adopt the map from September 27th that our staff worked very hard on, and it followed all the federal guidelines, and it also followed our working assumptions. I have also gotten a lot of feedback from the public, people that live in my district and people that don't live in my district. The words that I have heard are gerrymandering and sneaky. They feel like this has been a very non-transparent process, and they feel like it has been simply to better serve the commissioners than the people. So I'm sure that there is other comments out there, but I would have a substitute motion that I would like to make to adopt the maps that we all unanimously approved on from 9/27 that best suited the public and was also nonpartisan.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we have a substitute motion to adopt the 9/27 map.
I've got comments.
Okay. Commissioner
Okay.
Coulson?
Historically, it has been the precedence of this board that we do this with a public hearing. We also give 10 days notice for the public to respond. I saw this map at about 5 o'clock tonight. I've been working at UI all day for a job I've been recontracted to do for them, and at an ABC board meeting, so I was unable to see any maps. But it just smacks to me of a lot of questions as to, I thought we were supposed to be a board of 9. And yet, it seems like we get 3 together, I'll say 3, it might be 4, it might be 2, together, and they, I'm gonna use the word steer, try to steer things, it's seemingly, without the whole board's input, or the ability for the whole board to input, except for like tonight. Right now, this is our chance for input tonight. And I don't know where the public is when we see, when the comment was made for the concerns of the citizens. Well, I too heard from concerns from the citizens about the 9/27 map. And everybody thought that was, okay, that's fair. And, you know, the districts didn't change a lot, and this 9/11E is, I'm a little troubled that I would lose Ayden. I like Ayden. Ayden's a good neighborhood, a good town to me. So this map is not favorable to me, but I'll look at it from, okay, if I were to lose that, it'll be okay. If I don't get reelected sometime down the way, that's all right too. But we as a board should be 9 people making a decision, and not at the last minute. I'm just questioning this 11E, under what premise, under what tool, what scenario drove these changes to move them over a few roads or streets or many streets or whatever. I'm looking at this map and I'm saying, wait a minute. District 3, now it loses from Simpson all the way through Grimeston over to the county border. What drove that? What reasoning went into that? I know you have to balance the population and all that, but when somebody comes and makes, I'm gonna say the 3, because I don't know of any other way to maybe reference this. When they go and they talk to James Rhodes and his staff, and they have that input, and all this stuff gets moved around, and okay, well, we can do that, but if we do that, then we have to do whatever else. And I'll call it the turkey shoots that James Rhodes showed, where he showed a map, and then he showed the overlay of what changes took place in order to make that particular map work. Well, 11E is quite the turkey shoot. And Janice, I know you know what a turkey shoot is now. And so, I'm just troubled by this, that the public's not gonna be able to comment. The public forum part of it, they aren't gonna be able to question us. I mean, it's even suspicious to me that the public addresses follow this meeting, so people that might want to have something to say about it, well, it won't matter what they say, because we've already potentially voted on a map that they haven't had really a chance to look at and study. So, and as far as the precincts being split, two neighbors at the grocery store living directly across the street. And one's from precinct A and the other one's from precinct B. And they saying, well, why are we at different precincts? I live right across the streets from you. Why can't those fools get their act together and put us all in the same precinct? Now, you know those conversations take place, assuming that people know their precinct, but I would maintain that 95% of the people probably don't even know what precinct they're in. And it really doesn't matter to them. To put Winterville and make it all in one district, well, I would say that it actually dilutes the amount of input for that town from county commissioners if you were to say county commissioners only represent their district and not the county as a whole. Because now they've only got 2 county commissioners. One of the super districts, A, B, or C, and their District 5, I think it's 5 is the one here. So how does that help? And so the trying to keep the split down, it was surprising that that was an argument a week or so ago, and yet I just heard a minute ago one of the comments, well, maybe it's not so important after all. Well, why is it not important now all of a sudden? But it was before, to make an argument to come up with some new maps. And so, we gotta have this in by Wednesday, is that not right?
Yes, sir.
You need to be able to have time to be able to get it in there, right?
Yes, sir.
And you really kinda need us to make a decision tonight with no public input other than what 3 members of the public have made, is that correct?
It would give us more time if you were to act tonight.
And see, even though it may not be legally mandatory to have a public appearance, a public address, or, not address, public, meeting, it has always been in the past. That's our precedent. Why are we wanting to destroy a many, many decades-old precedence? What's really driving this? I'm suspicious. So, I hope that the board thinks about this. There was nothing wrong with the 927 map.
Commissioner Coulson, when we started this, each commissioner had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Rose.
We did not have an opportunity, Ann, to vote on on 11E. We had no input. I had no input. I know Lauren had no input. I'm
What-
gonna suppose there's other commissioners on here that have not had any input.
What I'm
And yet you're
saying-
trying to push this forward, and
What
so, no, we did
What-
not have a chance.
What I'm saying is that each commissioner had an opportunity to give your input however you wanted
How
to
many
give
times
it.
did you give your input? And how many
Each.
times did you meet? I didn't meet with you, because I didn't know about any other meetings. Was I invited to it?
Well, you,
Were other people invited to it? I wasn't invited to. I was invited to meet with James Road, one time, and I went there on Wednesday, and I had 11C and 11D map. Now all of a sudden, I'm seeing 11E, it's a hybrid of the two. And I wasn't invited to any of those meetings.
well, every commissioner had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Rose, call Mr. Rose, and ask to look at the map, look at any map, and give your input. That
This
was,
map didn't exist, Ann, until what, today? And you told
But-
me that I'd be getting an email from James Rhodes today at the end of the ABC board meeting, was 1:30. I told you I wouldn't be able to look at the map because I had been contracted with my original company to do a renegotiation of a GM contract. And if you want, I'll give you the phone number, you can go call my old boss. I didn't have time to look at this map and study it, and even if I did, it's still not enough time to really look at it and see, well, what.
And I also want to say that we received a letter from Winterville, from the mayor of Winterville, asking that Winterville be put in one district.
So you
I
have one
believe.
person,
So-
one mayor from one town asking for something, and you're gonna change the whole direction and all of our past precedences because of one person making a request. And again, I'm gonna argue it doesn't matter. It really does not matter that it's all in one district.
Commissioner Nunley?
I think it's important, and I'll just outline for the commissioner the reason for my, I guess, I wouldn't say change of heart, but reflection. The point and process of public input is to receive it and to apply it, and hopefully your elected representatives listen and apply it. And here, we were looking at a map on 927 where we had 19 precinct splits, 19. And
So?
we asked, well, with
You
all
said-
due res-
you
with
said
all
that
due
wasn't
respect,
important
Commissioner
just a little
Colson,
while
with all
ago,
due
Chris.
respect, this is my time. With
You just said
with-
a little while
with
ago,
all
it wasn't
due
so
respect.
important after all.
Commissioner
with all due
Colson,
respect,
I'm recognizing Commissioner Nunley.
there may be a difference of opinion as to whether or not there needs to be a split of precincts and whether or not that's something that we should consider. I personally feel that it's important, if given the opportunity, which we have, to find a way to draw maps that limit the splitting of precincts. That was the directive and feedback that I heard and the feedback that I gave as an elected representative to our planning staff. That's the process that I went through. That's what brings me here today, not supporting the 927 map, but supporting a hybrid map that's chock full of public feedback. So we might have a difference of opinion about whether or not we want to split precincts or not, but I would argue that it is important to be closer to the public that you serve. It is important to not have unnecessary splitting of precincts. Is it administrative? Sure. But that's the beauty of local politics. You get a chance to do it a little bit better because you're on your own turf and you're on the ground and you get to serve your people and you work for your people. It's absolutely right. And so here we have an opportunity. Does it involve changing the way things have been done since 2011? Yes, because there have been 19 plus split precincts for a long, long time. I would argue this map is more compact. It's going to be simpler for our voters. It's going to be simpler for people running for public office. And I would argue it's not a gerrymandered map.
Okay.
Not to interrupt, but I've just gotten
Commissioner White,
text messages.
Commissioner
I've
White,
just gotten a couple-
Commissioner White,
I've just gotten
Commissioner White.
I've just gotten a couple of text messages that this whole YouTube live link that's supposed to be live during the public hearing is not live and not being broadcast to the public during the public hearing.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Mr. Nunley, or Commissioner Nunley, I have to respectfully disagree. I think this is, everything that I've seen with the new map is the reason why people don't trust politicians. I think it's unfortunate. I think that the most recent map benefits one party. And it's very disappointing. Our job is to represent the people of Pitt County as a whole. We're not responsible for trying to get reelected. Our job is to represent our constituents in the best way that we can. And I hope everybody takes that into consideration.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Just a minute, Commissioner McGlaughlin, I'm going to recognize Commissioner Ward, and then I will recognize you, and then I'm going to go down here. Okay.
I imagine this is going to sound a little hokey, but this to me is a voter's map. This is a draft of how the district that you will run in and that you will be elected in or not reelected in. And it's not so much driving us as to the decisions we make of here, because we are county commissioners, and I know many times we do vote how we feel like our party wants us to vote. But as a whole, I think we have always looked at this as once you're in this chair, your votes are supposed to be for what best fits and suits the majority of the people in Pitt County. And that to me is so important. Yes, we have to use this vehicle to get elected, but as far as this driving how I make my decisions, this is what drives the people that I go to see and ask for their votes. Once it's identified that this is my district, wherever it falls, that's where I'm going to go and campaign. And I think the importance here, and we can't lose sight of it, is this isn't an election. It is not how we're going to perform as commissioners. So I think it's important that we realize that.
Commissioner McGlaughlin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the things that has kept me as a commissioner for almost 20 years is because I listen to the community. Many of our community leaders do not speak simply because they are afraid or don't know how to articulate. So they go to organizations throughout the county. For example, the NAACP, the other civic groups that's out in the community. So they speak for Democracy North Carolina. They speak for these people because they are concerned. Now, I believe deeply in representing the people. That's why I've been on the board for as long as I've been on. And I always believe in fairness and being equitable and being transparent. Now, this map, level 1E, represents, to me, a totality of these people's concerns. And as Commissioner Nunley outlined, we don't have to continue to do things as status quo. We can break tradition if it's for the benefit of the citizens of Pitt County, being transparent and just doing the right thing. We got to stop just trying to. I think some of the commissioners are making it look as if we just want to protect a district, but I want to protect the people. I want to be concerned about the people, their concern, and this is why I'm voting for the map level 1E. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Perkins-Williams? Did you have your hand up? Okay, Commissioner Albright?
Yeah, thank you. I like 11E because of the tightness of Winterville, the 93%. 11D had all of Winterville in one, but non-contiguous, as Mr. Rhodes mentioned. It has the fewest split precincts, which seems like a good idea to me. I would also mention that I was not invited, nor did I attend any meetings about these precincts. I believe that Aiden is not going to help my chances for re-election. I believe this map might just take me out of office, but I'm not. That's not the point here. If you look at this map, the blue, green, and the purpley colors surround the county. They're pretty tight. We have our central 3 districts. It looks like a good map color-wise to me. It looks balanced. And again, I really appreciate the effort that's gone into getting us down to 6 split precincts and getting almost all of Winterville in one district. So anyway, that's why I'm supporting 11E. Thank you.
Okay. We have a substitute motion, and we will vote on the substitute motion first.
Will you repeat it, please?
Madam Clerk, would you repeat the,
Motion to adopt the 927 map.
okay. Yes, Madam Attorney?
Madam Chair, just for purposes of the record and administratively, does that motion include the adoption of the resolution itself as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
What was the resolution?
Well, you would have to read the, well,
It's in the agenda packet. So the last
Okay.
time you adopted a map, we adopted the map, but it takes an actual resolution for it to become effective. And so that's what came back on your item for consent that was pulled. So adopting a map is not going to accomplish what you need tonight. You need to adopt a resolution that incorporates a map, including its description, and authorize the chair to sign that as was set forth in the PowerPoint from James Rhodes. So I just want to be
Yeah.
sure that was the intent of
Do
the
we
motion.
have the resolution?
Yes, you have the sample resolution in your packet that we will tailor toward whatever map you adopt tonight.
can we,
Okay.
should we not do the resolution separate because so the manager can read it? Because that's what he usually.
The resolution is prepared as a fill-in resolution. We do not have the resolution. James will have to build all the census blocks and tracks to create that resolution, but the resolution will be, help me out, Janice, if I'm,
The resolution is in your packet with blanks to fill in. Those blanks to fill in will be the date of the map that you adopt. And then if we authorize you to sign it, attached to that resolution is a written description by census block of, so not only will you have a picture of the map attached, you will also have that written description as well. So adoption of the resolution is what's necessary by November 17th to comply with the law.
Okay.
Was that not already done for the 927 map?
No.
It was, no, it was not. So on for the 927 map, you adopted the map, but we did it without adopting the resolution. So it came back to your next meeting for the resolution, and then that didn't pass.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, are you still,
I-
are you
I-
clear?
I was gonna say something.
Go ahead.
In the last meeting where we considered the adjustment or pull the maps back out, the purpose of doing it was to reduce the number of split precincts. My feeling with that hasn't changed. Now we're down to, the only notes I made on this tonight was the maps and how many precincts were split. So we are down to 6 precincts. I'm not concerned about the area in as much as I am. I think it's important for people who have communities of interest to be together, and they can talk about stuff together, and they can talk about who's who and what's what. So I'm with the number of precincts that's not split.
Okay.
I think I said spit, but I'm trying to say split. So that's where I am. So if we're voting now, I'm ready because we don't need to keep hashing.
Okay, well, the question still is on the resolution.
so so on this substitute motion for the 927 map, in effect, you will be adopting a resolution that matches the 927 map,
Okay.
if you vote for that
It's
substitute
back to this
motion.
first one.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we're voting for the substitute motion, and that is to vote for the 927 with 19 splits, I believe. So, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
No.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
No.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McGlawhorn,
No.
Commissioner Nunley,
No.
Commissioner Ward,
No.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
No.
Motion failed 6-3.
Okay. Now we will vote on the original motion, which was Commissioner Nunley put forth, and second by Commissioner McGlaughlin, voting for 11-1E. Okay,
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
No.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes?
Commissioner Colson.
No.
Commissioner McGlaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
No, I cannot support that gerrymandered map.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-3.
Okay. All right, and then the resolution that goes with it?
You adopted that as part of the motion?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Thank you.
that was attached?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. We'll make sure we got everything this time.
Are we back on the agenda now, Madam Chair?
Yes, we're back to the agenda, which is public address to the board. Do we have any?
So we have two people signed up for public addresses. They were actually signed up on the public hearing for redistricting. I don't know if they want to speak twice, but we had Holden Spain and Gary Weaver. They've already spoke unless they intend to speak twice.
You intend to speak twice? Okay.
For public addresses to the board, the same rules apply. I'll keep your time at 3 minutes per speaker.
Thank you. I would just like to say that this meeting tonight is a shame. The fact that this board has passed a map for redistricting that was not made public on the website for redistricting. I just checked, it's still not on there. And the fact that this entire meeting, including this entire public address for redistricting, has not been streamed on YouTube so the public could see it, and it's still not as of right now, shows how little this commission cares for public input for redistricting. I cannot say enough how disappointed I am in this commission, and I hope that the citizens of Pitt County and the voters in your districts make known to you how disappointed they are as well. Thank you.
Next, we have Gary Weaver.
Okay,
Now,
thank you.
I do want to point out, our meeting is being telecast live on Channel 13, and we are meeting all legal requirements for this meeting. We will rebroadcast this on YouTube tomorrow, but we did have technical difficulties getting it streamed with Zoom tonight.
Okay, but it is being televised.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Manager,
Yes.
the vote tonight, does permit the community to look at it and examine, is that correct?
No, your vote tonight has finalized the redistricting for the 2021 process. You will not deal with this until 2031.
I just wanted to know.
Okay, where are we?
Items to report.
Okay, items for report, legislative update,
Yes,
Madam Attorney.
Good evening, Madam Chair. We have your legislative update in your report this evening, beginning on page 7 in your packet. It's fairly lengthy. It's included in your packet so that I won't take time reading it to you in a board meeting, but just to make a few updates and highlights. The General Assembly, although there's been no budget passed, has been quite busy in reviewing and passing certain bills that do affect counties. I want to point out to you, under your section on emergency management, Senate Bill 311, in your packet, it indicates that it was heading to the governor for consideration. The governor did in fact sign that, and that became law on November 10th as an update to that. The other thing I will highlight for you is House Bill, let me take a quick look, 311. And that has various changes in it, and one of the changes that you may be hearing, and that's now law, one of the changes that made is it decriminalizes county ordinances. So in the past, there was a statute that said violation of a county ordinance was a misdemeanor. Now, unless your ordinance specifically makes it a crime, it will not automatically become a misdemeanor. It can be enforced civilly as a county ordinance through the provisions that are set forth in the ordinance itself. So just to let you know, that passed. That's neither, I wouldn't say that's neither good nor bad, it's just different. And so you may be hearing more from us if this board would like to
address existing ordinance to specifically allow for criminal penalties or not. So you'll hear more about that in the future going forward. Other than that, I'll answer any questions you may have about the particular actions that have been taken by the General Assembly. I'll continue to monitor it, and we'll be hopeful that we'll have a budget soon.
Any questions for the attorney? Okay, hearing none, we will have the October tax collection report by Sam Croom. Mr. Croom?
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good
Commissioners, Andrew Elliott. It's good to be with y'all tonight. Tonight I bring you the October 2021 tax collection report. The Pitt County fiscal year to date, July 1, 2021 through October 31st, 2021, combined collection rate for real and personal property is 70.80%. The combined collection rate 1 year ago for real and personal property was 66.31%. Pitt County Tax Administration continues to pursue all outstanding taxes using the necessary remedies available through the general statutes of North Carolina. It's my recommendation for the board to approve the October 2021 tax collection report as presented.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I offer the motion that we accept the report and approve it.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the October tax collection report. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGlawhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll now move to the monthly report for the general fund, solid waste, enterprise, and EMS. Brian, you're up.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Board of Commissioners, you have in front of you your report for our financials on the general fund, solid waste fund, and the EMS fund as of the end of October. We are 4 months in, or roughly 1/3 of the way through the fiscal year. In the general fund, we have collected revenue at a rate of 44.3% of our budget, while only spending 35.3%. In the solid waste fund, we have collected 58.7% of our budgeted revenues, and we've only spent 33.2% of our expenditures. And in the EMS fund, we have collected 49.62%, while only spending 44.11%. We're doing quite well. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to offer a motion to accept the report as given, and I'd like to commend the staff on the improvement they've made at the convenience sites. I visit 4 of them regularly, and I like to say that I really, really appreciate the improvements of the big, well, those weren't potholes, they were something like tubes, and the increase in the appearance of the facility.
I second her motion
Okay,
to approve.
it's been moved and seconded that we approve the report as presented. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGlawhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. You're still up?
Yes, I just wanted to take an opportunity to remind you all and those watching tonight that we still have 4 in-person and 4 virtual Zoom settings left for our American Rescue Plan, our ARP funding. We are looking for input from the public on how to spend the $35 million that the county received. In most cases, both events occur on the same day, but just want to remind everybody, on November 17th, we will be at the Mark W. Owens Auditorium from 6 to 8. That morning, on the 17th, we will have our Zoom from 10 to 12. On November 29th, we will be at the Community Schools and Recreation at the Alice King District Park. That's the one day that's slightly different. We will not have a Zoom on the 29th. The 29th Zoom will be on the 22nd. On December 1st, we will be in the town of Grimesland at their town hall from 6 to 8. And then on December 7th, we will be in Farmville at their town hall. So we welcome the public to come out. It's an open house style. We would prefer for you to get there right at 6, but we will be there from 6 to 8. On the Zoom setting, if you would like the link for the Zoom call, we do ask that you go to our website, pittcountync.gov/ARP. It has all the links for our website. And if you feel more comfortable, if you don't want to come to one of our open houses or be on our Zoom, we do have a survey that will be open until the end of December to provide any input. So if you as commissioners, if you run across people with great ideas, tell them to go to the website, complete the survey. It comes directly to me, so we can compile all that and put it together for you in January. So we just wanted to put that reminder out one more time, and we'll probably make a couple more reminders at our next meeting on December 6th and December 20th.
Yes, thank you.
Any
As you
questions?
said,
Mr. Barnett.
this is inviting the public to come to 4 meetings to give their input as to how
4 in person and 4 virtual.
4 in person and 4 virtual. Give their input as to how we should spend the ARP money.
Correct.
But they only need to come to one meeting.
Yes,
to
yeah, you don't need to
present.
come all 8 times.
They don't have to come
One
to all of
time.
them, but they,
And you can do the survey without coming.
right. So, this is
There's
their,
a lot of avenues for input.
yeah, this is community time for input. Commissioner Perkins Williams?
Mr. Barnett, I guess, received some questions about it. When I sent out a mass email, they said, what do we do to have our input if we don't want to go? And I said, write it down. Is that acceptable?
Sure, they can write it
I
down.
told them to write it down to be sure that they
Mail it
sign,
in.
so if you have questions, you can get up with them.
Yes.
Do you need an address too?
Well, they can send it here. It'll come to, just tell them to address it to me, ARP funding, however they want to put it. All avenues are open for the input. So yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, so I told them you or Janice, but, I said, that won't be any doubt if it's written down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The manager's report?
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have the next meeting dates. The first one is the special meeting scheduled for tomorrow night, November 16th at 6 p.m. I'm assuming that since the redistricting process has been concluded tonight, that you as a board by consensus, Madam Chairman or the county attorney, we can just do that by consensus to cancel that meeting? Yes. So that's the
Is
board's.
that agreeable with everybody?
Yes.
We don't need the meeting tomorrow? Okay.
Otherwise, we have the December 6th and December 20th meetings. We did have a workers' compensation settlement, and to remind you, our workers' compensation is a self-insured fund. We do have a third-party administrator that handles that. We had a DSS employee that we settled a case for $17,000 on. Just need to report that out. And one other thing I don't have on here is we have received, and I believe we have in place, Tim Corley, all the recycling containers for all 14 different convenience sites throughout the county. So we're now 100% covered with glass recycling.
Okay.
Took a while, but we finally got them in and got them placed. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the items for consent.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the items for consent. Are you ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yeah.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks. Next item, an item for discussion, Lake Glenwood property discussion, Tim?
Yeah, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the
Good
board.
evening.
Glad to be in front of you tonight to talk about Lake Glenwood. Going to tell you a little bit about Lake Glenwood for those that may not be familiar with its location and what it has to offer there. So we'll get started. Lake Glenwood is located in the city of Greenville's ETJ on the eastern side, almost slightly just shy of the county's jurisdiction. It's circled there in red, right off of Eastern Pines Road. Here's just a boundary within Lake Glenwood of the properties surrounding the lake and the lake property itself in light green there. That lake is actually owned by the Property Owners Association since 1977. It's been in their ownership. Got a few members of the board and residents of the community there here with us tonight. They're here representing that group. Again, here's an aerial just showing the location. You see Eastern Pines there, which runs kind of to the on the south and west corner, left bottom area of that map. You can see those two large ponds to the north. That is the Walmart on 10th Street. That is their retention ponds for that development there. And then the darker shade of green there is the lake boundaries, and the lighter shade of green is the dam area. That lake is dammed there with a device that controls the water level within the lake, and it discharges into the creek that's on the other side of Eastern Pines Road. Here's some pictures of the lake. This is looking from the dam toward the lake. You see some of the properties which surround the lake. It's most of the property around the lake is privately held by private property owners. This is a look to the south along the dam. You'll see that's Eastern Pines to your right there. That is the outlet device that is in the center there. I've got a couple closer pictures there. That's the outlet device looking up the dam. That's where the water comes from the lake and down to the discharge point at Eastern Pines. That is the inlet to that area. That's on top of the dam looking at the lake again. You'll see there's some bulkheads and some piers within the lake as well that currently the property owners maintain.
Excuse me just a minute, Tim.
Yes.
Commissioner White or Commissioner McLaughlin, do you have a TV or something on? We're getting feedback from someone. Thank you.
Mine's on mute.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'll continue. Here's another. You see, they've actually gone and repaired a little bit of it. That's another view looking at the outlet point of the lake, and that's looking down toward Eastern Pines. Both sides of this dam feature have issues with needing repair, and that's part of the reason that I'm in front of you tonight. Just to give you a little background, the Lake Glenwood Property Owners Association is a private corporation. They're the ones that currently own and maintain that lake. The dam has been in violation. I believe they're on their 4th letter of violation from North Carolina State Dam Safety. The repairs, there was initial study which was done that was funded by solely by the Property Owners Association, which identified about a roughly $275,000 repair needed to the dam. And that's been going on for several years now as far as that dam needing to be fixed. Commissioner Nunley, I think some of the residents had reached out to Commissioner Nunley. There was a meeting between county staff and members of the Property Owners Association on September 23rd. They came and met with us to discuss possible options for getting that dam repaired. And some of the suggestions we made were to get some sort of resolution, have the Property Owners Association as a whole try to figure out what their feeling was as a group moving forward, how they'd like to continue on the path of getting their problem, getting the dam fixed, and so it's not there's not going to be an issue for others downstream or others around the lake. So they did a resolution on October 18th, and when we had a community informational meeting that Janice and I attended on October 30th with members, they were allowed to come as kind of an open house forum, came and gave input. They had a petition there to further study the lake area, including the dam, and possibilities of what could be done with Lake Glenwood as far as could it become some sort of park area? Could the county, is it a benefit for the county to assume ownership of the lake itself? What would that entail? Kind of what would we be looking at full picture lake-wise as far as what would the county be jumping into, in a sense, if we were to be gifted the property that is currently owned by the Property Owners Association. So what this study would do, it would identify and estimate the cost of the needed improvements. So we know the cost of the dam. We know the dam needs repaired. We don't know what else needs to be done to the lake. It may need to be dredged. There may be inlet pipes that need to be repaired or replaced. We just don't know. And so part of this study would identify and give us pricing on what those improvements and needed repairs would be. It would also look at the repair even further, and even look at the option of removal. That certainly is not something that we heard from the property owners as far as removal of the dam, but that is one of the options that is available, which would basically resolve the issue in a sense, but that certainly is not what the residents told us that they desired. They would also look at park feasibility. I mentioned this. There is some small areas for parking, but the study would look at those things. How many areas could be parked in? How many parking spaces? How could the lake be accessed? You know, there's limitations on where folks could go on the lake as far as with canoes or for fishing on the dam and other things. How easy would access be for the public if it were to become a public facility? And then capacity, how many folks could it benefit? How many folks could utilize it if it was to become a county park? And then again, other factors to consider, just kind of some of the unknowns that maybe we're not thinking about. You know, if we were to go on this endeavor of making it a county park. So that's what this study would actually do. So where we're at now is kind of looking at options that really these are options that the homeowners, the Property Owners Association has. The first one would be an assessment process. If you recall, most members of this board were here when we did Woodmore, and we did the assessments on the streets there to get the streets paved. That is an option here as well. So that would retain private ownership of the lake for the Property Owners Association. And then the assessment process could be used to do the repairs that are needed to the dam. Just recently, those assessment procedures have changed. It's now a 20-year payback instead of the 10 years. So that would be spread out among the residents equally, as well as over a 20-year period. The other options, should it become county property, are the ARPA funds, rescue plan dollars. Also, possible state funds that are earmarked for that work or for the repair or for other things needed out there, as well as our dollars, just general fund dollars, county general fund dollars that could be utilized to do that work.
So Tim, those last three bullets, if you go back to the last slide, the last three bullets would, go back one more slide.
Oh, my finger does not want to go back. Thank you.
So the last three bullets would require public ownership of the land. The first one would be a private option per se.
I have questions.
Yes.
Most of the time when the residents has a problem or an issue, such as potholes and stuff, to me, this dam and this water is on private property and it's an issue. We can't fix the streets in certain neighborhoods because they always say privately owned. So if you're gonna do this for this community, there are a lot of communities that are, I know of some, that have privately owned streets, and these are not potholes, they become tin tubs or barrels or whatever. So if that happens for this, and the residents in my area hear that, they're gonna say, why is it these private properties are gonna be fixed or taken over by the county, and we can't get ours done, and the cars get knocked out or whatever, and tears up the alignments and breaks the chassis. So, what here is there a difference?
The difference here under this proposal, if the county took ownership of it, it would be dedicated for recreational purposes, whereas a private street wouldn't be the like case.
A private street wouldn't be what?
Recreational, there wouldn't be.
But it would be used by the public. And you're talking about this lake gonna be used by the public, am I not correct?
Yes.
Well, then, on behalf of those communities that cannot afford and can't do it, I think it is very, and people run over it. The long-distance trucks are going over it. And as a representative of those kind of properties in the district, I think if it happens for this piece of property, I think it should happen for all of them.
Commissioner Ward?
I was wondering, do we have a number of, do you know the number of residents or homes there?
Yeah, I don't, Janice, do you have the exact number? I don't have the exact number of.
I don't. I know that there were over 100 notices sent out. We have Ron Lancaster, the president of the Property Owners Association, present, who at the conclusion of Tim's presentation might be able to answer those questions better than I. Also some other residents and board members who are here as well. I see Mr. Barron, I see Ann Heath, and there are probably others behind the posts that I can't see. But I know it was over 100 who received notice, and in addition to their 10-member board.
Yeah, and I believe the petitions were included
In your packet.
In your packet, correct.
Yes.
Okay. And so, I'll finish up. This is the last slide. I just wanted to hit this. So really, kind of, this is where we're at. The steps. We could do nothing. We could, you could choose that, we're not going to do anything at this time. You could start. You could initiate the assessment process, which is what I discussed earlier. We could start that process. You'd have to meet the 75% threshold, those types of things in the petition and all those, that same process that we did the streets with. You could utilize the Mini Brooks Act, which what that means is that's allows us to go back to the folks that did the original study for the Property Owners Association, since they have prior knowledge of this project, and they would do the engineering and feasibility study, the further study of what I described. That's a $20,000 cost for that study, not to exceed $20,000. And then, or you could not do the study and just flat out consider ownership transfer to the county and try to get dollars for the needed repairs to the lake, whether it's state, local, or ARPA funds.
Commissioner Nunley?
So, I'll just give a little background and kind of chime in with, as Tim's already mentioned, but the Homeowners Association president, Mr. Bear, contacted me a number of years ago about Lake Glenwood Dam, and visited on a number of occasions. And I grew up in the area, so I was familiar with it. A lot of people grew up fishing in that pond. But with the recent storms and with the increase of water that comes in through the development out on Highway 33, and just the general age and development of that, this dam was not built to maintain the amount of water that comes into it now. It just can't hold it, and as Tim has mentioned, it's in violation. So this has been kicked around for 20 some odd years, but the water problem is continued to get greater and greater. And so what I guess what comes before us here today is what I hope is that we can assist, and I think in a situation where we have a feature that does a number of things in our community. One, it potentially provides recreation. It provides retention for floodwaters, provides some flood control downstream, stormwater resiliency, some other matters. It's an opportunity to assist the community that is currently privately held, but with a matter that really does affect a broad swath of people all around it. water doesn't just affect the people that are touching it, it affects who's potentially affected downstream in the event of a breach. There are a number of developments on that side. And so there's a concern about continuing to be more and more resilient with how we can manage our floodwater. And if we're looking at this, I think it's a good time to look at the study, potentially, get it to where we can get this dam fixed and really shore up the tax base in that area. If the dam were to be ripped out, there would be no lake. There would be, I think it would be probably pretty detrimental to the area. Like I said, it's been a feature long-standing in the community for a number of years. And if I'm not mistaken, the study would be something that if we were going to go down the road of seeking state funds or federal funds or ARPA funds to fix the dam as a public park, it would be something that needed to be done anyway, potentially, to make that determination. So I would be in support of, just moving it forward. It's we can step up and really plug the gap here, and start moving this in the direction. And I guess it could still go a couple of ways, but I think this is a step in the right direction.
All right. Commissioner
Madam
Braxton?
Chair, if we take a step in the right direction and do this for this community, I suggest that we do something for these other communities that have some problems in it that gives the residents a serious concern. Floyd came through and flooded out a lot of those streets, and there has been nothing done to them. So if we're gonna do this for this community, and because they have the wherewithal, we need to do something for these other communities. And I don't think that we should be allowing something for one community that we do not allow for the others. And you notice I'm getting very emotional here because I hear it from the manager all the time. That's private property. And if we're gonna do this for this private property, we need to do it for the other private property where the people don't have the economic wherewithal to do it. And I was looking at the area, I've ridden in that area, and the resources are much greater. So if we're gonna do that, I tell you, I'm gonna make a big push that it be done for all of the communities. We cannot be biased as it relates to spending money for that. And if we're gonna do a petition, then we do a petition for everywhere. I don't think because a group is uneducated and does not know how to address their problem as your educated community, then we should do it for the others who don't have it. And that's my position, and that's where I stand on that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I got it.
Tom?
Tim, this lake is a man-made lake, is that correct?
That's correct.
When was it made?
When was it made? Was it made when it was actually incorporated in 1977? 64 or 65.
Okay. I know that there's been some issues downstream from it in the past, where they had big storms come through and I believe water went over their emergency spill.
Yeah, they actually drain the lake themselves. They actually work with Walmart, and if storms are coming, they actually drain the Walmart ponds as well as their lake to get it prepared for launch.
It's actually washed out Eastern Pines Road the last storm, I believe,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, but there was a time, well, it may not have been, it may have been 20 years ago. I remember that there was a big problem downstream. But I'm kind of with Mary on this in the sense of the private property aspect. It's private property, and now all of a sudden it's in trouble, and private property wants the community to potentially come and use tax dollars to help bail it out. I would dare say, and there may be some argument to this, that the people that are wanting that bailout right now would not have been so keen on, I'll say, interlopers coming into their community in years gone by. And I happen to know some people that tried to go and utilize the lake, and they were literally yelled off of it because they weren't adjacent owners of the property. I'm also familiar with it because it falls in my district. I only live a couple miles from it, and I'm not sure where you really park cars. If you could park cars, there wouldn't be very many there. And so therefore, I got a question for county attorney. If we were to adopt this and it became a ownership, the county ownership of the lake, what kind of liabilities would we be exposed to from drowning and or other issues?
So, the only way we could assist, would be if the county owned it, so that it was public property.
Right.
We would be able to do that through our authority to do recreation.
So
That's
if we
what
did that-
separates this from other projects, like roads. In terms of liability, that's one of the things that we would ask the preliminary study to consider, those other factors that relate to county ownership that Tim mentioned. So I do recommend that if you're gonna go down this road, that you do proceed first with the study, so you know exactly what you're getting into and what those ramifications are. There's always liability anytime the county owns land or property. You can minimize that liability by taking steps that are toward that end. You would have to post the property, you would have to have insurance on it, you would never absolve yourself of liability. So there would be an increased risk associated with the undertaking, but it would be a risk that we would have experts guide us on, and it would be a risk that we would minimize to the best extent possible based on implementation of best practices.
Well, I would think that the property owners would actually like to keep it private property. And I kind of like the idea of, like we did with the roads. If there's a 20-year payback and they do it in the taxes and an interest-free loan or a very light interest loan, I think that might be the way to go. That way the county doesn't own it, we're not open to liabilities, and the dam can get fixed and hopefully not create a problem in the future.
Two quick things, just, we did hear from most of the property owners, and they were okay. I'd say 95% of the ones we talked to were totally for it going to a public ownership, scenario, just, to talk about your first statement there. The other thing is by doing the study could come back and tell us that it's not a good idea, that you can only get two cars parked and access is almost impossible. I mean, we don't know. And so that's what the study would tell. The study may answer the question for us.
So what about a house that's on the property right now, and they have a dock? There's some pictures that actually showed, and I'm sure that there's more than what the picture shows, where people have got maybe their canoe or rowboat or whatever out there, and they can enjoy the lake. If it becomes county property, can they still maintain that same bulkhead, that same pier, and so on? And if they do, because it goes into a county lake, does that cause us additional risk?
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
Yeah, we would have to address that risk in the transfer agreements, because we did notice when Tim and I were out that there were some bulkheads that were in poor repair, there were some that were in excellent repair. But that would be something that we would specifically ask the study to address, what liability and how best to protect against that. But the answer to your question is yes, that would be something that could create liability, and the answer is the same as before. We would have to take the steps necessary to minimize that liability for the county.
So how long would it take to do that study, and how would you go about it?
So the study, because it would fall within the Minnie Brooks Act, which is our procurement law for architects, engineers, and those types of professionals, if the board determined that we were exempt from the Minnie Brooks Act because we were going with a vendor who was already familiar with the property, who had special knowledge of the property, then the board would just need to adopt a motion that found that the proposal is in the app?
No, we
Is
did
not.
not get it until Friday.
Okay, so would be a motion that the company who did the study the first time would have special and unique knowledge, and you would authorize the county to enter into a contract with the same company
to provide a study. That study is estimated to not exceed $20,000. Was there a time frame on it?
No, there was no time frame, but I will add that, that the initial, so we talked with those folks and had them present us with a proposal for a study. That was shared with staff, and staff provided input on additional things or changes to that scope. So it has been vetted by staff, and we feel very comfortable with the actual scope of that study as presented, and it will answer all those questions, a lot of the questions you've asked tonight if we move forward with it.
Okay, no further questions.
Commissioner Ward.
It's been a while, but there was a subdivision that the streets were the problem. And they, together, the whole neighborhood, got together and whatever they were assessed, they got the whole thing settled. And it wasn't an astronomical amount for each one. I don't even think it was as large as this. It may be. I don't know, but I wonder if anyone has talked to them about that.
About the assessment process? Yeah,
Yes,
that was the
having them,
we've
and
discussed
get
that
the
with them.
repair done. How did they feel about that?
I mean, I don't know what, if you actually had to get the required 75% of the property owners to sign off, knowing that they were gonna have to pay it, whether it was, I don't know what that number would be. Would it just be the dam repair? We did some rough estimating, and I can't remember what, I was like, it might be $200 a year per resident for those 20 years. So I think it was rough, whatever that equals, was that $4,000 per resident would pay. Might be even less than that, but it was moving it to 20 years, basically divided it into half.
How much, do you remember how much it was when we did
One of them was
around
right at
1,000.
300,000, but I don't know how many residents were in James.
The roads ended up being about $1,000 a year, if I remember correctly.
When we had the authority, the maximum repay authority was 10 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And in your legislative update in your packet, you'll
lots of
see
good
the legislation that extends that to 20 years. It has not formally passed, but it doesn't, I believe that it will.
Mr. Manager.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this is a matter that the Homeowners Association, Jeff Bear, and the others have been coming to the county for a number of years, almost probably as long as I've been with the county. So it's not a recent issue or occurrence, and it's a stormwater issue that they would probably describe, and they may have an opportunity here in a minute, that's larger than Lake Glenwood. It's stormwater coming off of the surrounding, I don't want to call it region, but surrounding areas. So it is larger than Lake Glenwood, and some of the footage they've shot during storms where the actual roads are flooding, where you probably couldn't even drive through them, let alone walk through them, I'm not convincing you one way or the other, but I'm just wanting you to know that this is not a recent issue the last couple of years, but it has been going on 10, 15 years or greater, and they have came to us about every 3 years, I'd say, looking for a solution.
Yeah, and I will say too, what complicates it a little bit is upstream of them, I mentioned the Walmart development, that's city limits, and then on the other side of Eastern Pines, you've got a subdivision that's city limits, so it's kind of sandwiched in between in the ETJ of kind of city water coming through and hitting the city limits again, so it's.
Madam Attorney.
I just wanted to say that I think, just to be sure you're clear on the options that are before you, if you authorize this study this evening, that does not commit you to moving forward with the project. If you are willing to consider ownership by the county of that lake. If you are not willing to consider public ownership of the lake for purposes of a park or otherwise, then you wouldn't do the study. But if you are willing to consider that in the future, although not binding yourself, then you can move forward with the study without committing yourself to funding at this point in time. If you're not willing to consider ownership of the park and the potential for it to be publicly owned, then you can look at your assessment process. That would be the alternative.
Okay. Commissioner Albright.
Yeah, I like the idea of the study, and for this particular project, the assistance with stormwater collection and also the potential for recreation, and I'd like to see us go forward with the study.
Okay. So are you putting that in a motion?
I will.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna
Second.
cause a problem.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we do the
I'm
study.
causing a problem about this because you're being biased about it. I am, because it's not fair to the poor people. It's not fair to the indigent. If it's private, it's private. And you've always told me that private, we can't do anything with taxpayers' money for private property. So why is it different here? That's what I want to know.
We've been specifically talking about private roads in the past, Commissioner Mayor Perkins Williams. This is slightly different.
Slightly different.
Okay. We'll we'll have a question, Madam Clerk.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes, and this is to do the study.
And exempt from the
But then
Benny
you
Brooks
need to
Act at
study
the
the
same
Yes.
time.
Yeah. To exempt.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
No.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
No.
Commissioner McGawhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
No.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
No. In view of the fact that we are not going to study these others, if we're going to study one, we should study all of them.
Okay.
We're
Motion
using
passes
taxpayers'
5-4.
money.
Okay. All right, we'll go to the next item, zoning ordinance text amendment. Scott?
Yes, ma'am. So on this item here, we have a request from Commissioner Albright. I don't want to steal his thunder, but he did ask for an agenda item to be prepared regarding the recent text amendment to the Pitt County zoning ordinance, in which you added provisions for a data processing facility, large scale. And Commissioner Albright, I might just kind of turn it to you for what type of discussion you were trying to pursue on this with the board.
Yeah. The intention was for us to go back to prior to, I think that was 927, when we added that data processing facility, large scale, to the zoning, and to just eliminate that. I think it's page 82 in our packet right here.
So did you want to eliminate altogether, or just in specific districts?
I'm fine with going back altogether, and when it comes forward, I mean, I do have some issues with how the data processing facility, large scale, is described, and it does not seem to have been descriptive of what was brought before us. What was brought before us was a noise farm, and the fencing was much larger than what's included here. And so if we're going to talk about the data mining processing center, I wish we could talk about it as a new discussion, and not call it this data processing facility, large scale. That noise seemed to be the thing that really generated the most discussion here, and it doesn't seem to be addressed in this current, in what we adopted on the 27th.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Janice.
Yes.
Janice, because they withdrew their petition, but they did it without prejudice, right? Can we change the ordinance now, and that would restrict them in the future? Or do they still hold a potential option, regardless of what we do now, to, under the original, I don't know, maybe I'm not making this up clear.
No, you're making sense. They withdrew their application, and in order to, without prejudice, meaning that they may desire to bring it back in the future.
Right.
But when they bring it back in the future, it will be pursuant to the law that's on the books at the time they bring it
So if we
back.
change it, to like Commissioner Albright's saying, back to what it was, then it wouldn't be allowed.
Correct, but I would say that this board has to follow the process in order to do what's being suggested. And so, so I would, if the board wants to consider removal of the amendment that was adopted on the 27th, then what you would do is direct staff to take that to the planning board, so that the planning board could review that and bring back a recommendation back to this board on that text amendment. And you must have, anytime you make a text amendment or a map amendment, a public hearing. So you would
One
have
or
to have
two.
review by the planning board, you'd have to have your public hearing, and then you could make the change. And if there's a facility, kind of like sexually oriented business, most times, you need to have a very compelling basis to eliminate them completely from your county. There has to be some place where they can go within your county, or if there is no place, you have to have substantial justification for why there is no place. And so you will get some recommendations from the planning board on what Commissioner Albright is suggesting. Follow that process, have a public hearing, and then this board can undo or modify what happened on September 27th. So that's a process that can certainly be followed. It would not violate anything that we've done with the company that attempted to do a special use permit, and it would not prevent them from going forward under the current law as it is when they remake their
So
application.
what you're telling me is if we make a change, we can never completely ever undo it again?
No,
Unless we have some really compelling reason as to why it'll start World War III if we don't, I mean, whatever.
Well, you can make a change, it just depends on what that change is. And the planning board will give you some recommendations as to what that change ought to be. If you send it back and say, we don't believe that this type of business falls within data processing large as it was described to us, and we don't think that's appropriate in a rural residential or rural agricultural area of the county, we want you to reconsider this, then they will bring you back a recommendation, either to say do away with it completely, or they may bring you back a recommendation that says allow it in this particular part of the county, so long as other certain conditions are met pursuant to a special use permit. And then you would follow that process, and then ultimately this board would either accept that recommendation or reject it. But yes, you can go back to the way you were, but if there's a company that wants to come and do a use that is not contemplated within your zoning ordinance, you would need a compelling reason to ban it from the county altogether.
That was not the intention. I'm not trying to zone them out of business, and I would trust planning to answer those questions, but I'm trying to address the concerns that, especially with noise, and if there is an appropriate place for it, I'm glad for planning to recommend that place to us.
And that's how I understood your
Thank you.
comments, and I think that process would facilitate that goal.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Perkins.
I have a question. Is this a workaround for what just happened in the county? Can these people bring this company back to the same area among residents, to subdivisions and the school and all that? Is this a workaround we're looking at? That's what it sounds like to me. Is it a workaround?
I don't think that's what Commissioner Albright.
Is this a workaround?
Commissioner Albright is trying to get away from,
Right.
so that it will not be that kind of thing. Is that?
But you're talking about bringing it back to the county and making sure that it works in the county. Just help me to understand, because if I'm not understanding, I don't know how the average Joe Blow will understand it.
If I can, Madam Chairwoman, I
Yeah.
think Commissioner Albright, not to speak for you, Commissioner Albright, but he's trying to prevent this situation from happening again that like happened to the
Yes,
Glenwood community.
exactly. In residential, light agricultural, I believe that we had several comments that maybe industrial would be appropriate. I don't know. I'm not trying to speak to that, but it seemed that it was not a use that was appropriate for this particular area and the existing zoning there. And that's what I'm trying to prevent.
Okay.
And I'm understanding that, is there a way to keep it from getting to the, as far as it got,
Yes.
with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we're going to talk about this industry, we need to talk about all of the parts of the industry, and we should understand those aspects of the industry before we vote on it. And I don't think that we understood, it's a new industry, and I don't think we understood what we were being asked to consider. And I would like, when it comes back to us, for us to have all of those details, yeah.
I agree, I felt hoodwinked. When we changed that ordinance, there was nothing I thought about, like.
They said it was a farm.
Well,
So where are
Surprise,
we,
surprise.
Commissioner Ward?
my understanding was that the major concern was that it was near a school.
It's also residential.
It's
And
That's-
it is
absolutely
resident,
key.
and near residential
Yes,
too.
thank you.
I didn't mean to separate those. But yes, and I think we've said that is something we want to consider anytime, any industry of any size comes in to our county. But I don't want us to disparage that particular industry.
I'm
I
not
wanna
trying to
make
sound
sure
bad,
we're
but-
not doing that. Because the best I could determine, I wish they'd go out to the industrial park because they planned expansion,
So-
They didn't expect to stay. In fact, I understood they were gonna do at least 3 times what they started with, so.
So what are we talking about doing here?
I'm trying to get us to go back to, ask staff to look at revising or this text amendment and seeing what's appropriate for this particular industry, accepting that it does not seem appropriate for it to be in parts of our county zoning. And I think that's, planning knows that better than we, I think, where an industry like this, now that we know more about them, where that industry could be placed. But clearly, it seems from the responses that we had, that it's not an appropriate use in residential or light agricultural. And so I'm trying to make a motion that we direct staff, as Scott put it before, to come back to us with a plan that we can go forward with a public hearing and get back to it being impossible for this sort of circumstance to arise again in a residential area with a school around it.
Okay.
Madam Chairwoman, so I asked the attorney or planning director, per our process, who is the applicant for the text amendment? The Pitt County Board of Commissioners? Okay.
Yes.
And then,
And the process is being described is in the center paragraph on page 80, is what I believe, directing staff to take the recommended text amendment before the Pitt County Planning Board, and then receive that recommendation and conduct a public hearing to consider adoption.
Okay.
And that's the motion I would like to make, page 80, item 1, and then after that, we would consider and make the they would do that, but I think I'm just making number 1, that to direct staff to take recommended text amendment before the Pitt County Planning Board.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to second that motion, but I think if anybody attempt to try to bring this back to Pitt County, the residents and the citizens of Pitt County, I think they spoke very loud and clear that this particular industry would not be welcome here.
Okay, that was a second. It's been
Yes,
moved
that
in
was
second. It's been moved in second that we direct staff to do number 1. Is that right, Madam Attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
No.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
No.
Commissioner McGlawhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
No.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
No.
Motion passes 5-4.
Thank you.
I do not want the people to think that I'm supporting anything.
Let's see, where are we?
items for decision number 10, number 1.
Okay, next is item for decision, the reappointment up to the Aiden Planning Board. Mr. Manager?
Yes, you have a recommendation to reappoint Ms. Heather Clayton to the ETJ representative to the Aiden Planning Board.
I move to reappoint Ms. Clayton to the Aiden Planning Board.
It's been moved and seconded that reappoint to the Aiden Planning Board as stated. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGlawhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next one, the appointment of, and the reappointment to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Mr. Manager?
Yes, on this, on JCPC, you have the reappointment recommended for Ms. Julie Carey and Judge Wendy Hazelton, and a new appointment for Sergeant Chris Viverette.
Move approve.
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Second.
It's been moved in second that we make that appointment. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGlawhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. At this time, we will have commissioner comments, starting with
No
Commissioner.
comment.
Okay. Commissioner Fitzpatrick?
No comment.
Okay. Commissioner Nunley?
No comment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Perkins Reed?
No
All right.
comment.
Colson?
In
Commissioner?
regards to district, the redistricting map, 11-1E, I'm gonna maintain that I feel like it was done improperly. I would like to see this board get back to the process where all 9 of us, not in little groups, where some meet 12 times and some only meet once or two. These little groups never have the benefit of hearing what other people or input was. And so I really think this redistricting, it'll work, but the process is a travesty of how we went about it. And I just plead with the board to stop this stuff where a number of individuals on the board get together behind the scenes and do things to steer stuff such that the whole board doesn't have the ability to give input so that they can hear the benefit or arguments from the other side. I'm just flabbergasted. I'd say speechless, but obviously I'm not.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner McGlawhorn?
No comment.
Commissioner White?
I just kind of want to, maybe piggyback off of Commissioner Colson's comment. I feel like what happened tonight, I don't know, maybe flabbergasted is the appropriate word to use. I definitely feel like there's a small group that's trying to take control and make decisions, but, it is what it is. The map has passed, and I'm very, very sorry to the citizens that they did not have longer to see these maps and give their input. And I don't know, I guess at this point, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I believe we are going into closed session. Madam Attorney, will you take us into closed session?
Yes, ma'am. It has been suggested that this board go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3, attorney-client privilege, to consult with an attorney employed by the public body in order to preserve that attorney-client privilege. Also under 143-318.11A5, to establish or instruct the public body's staff concerning a position to be taken by or behalf of the public body in negotiating the price or other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or release. Also under 143-318.11A1, to prevent the disclosure of confidential information, and also under 143-318.11, subsection A, relating to personnel.
Thank you. I entertain a motion.
Motion to go into closed.
Second it.
It's been moved and second that we go into closed session. Ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGlawhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Good evening again. We're back into open session now. I will entertain a motion.
At this time, I would make a motion to approve the closed session minutes from the November 1st meeting.
Second it.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we approve the closed session for November 1st. Ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes?
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGlawhorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next.
At this time, I would make another motion that we acknowledge and agree to the existence of the joint operating agreement between Vidant Health and ECU.
Second it.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we approve the joint operation between Vidant and ECU. Are you ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McGlawhorn.
McGlawhorn?
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Commissioner McGlawhorn, are you there?
He's there. McGlawhorn?
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved and second that we adjourn. All ready? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
No.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1.